Welcome to another episode of Call to Marriage. I'm Marcia.
And I'm Thomas.
And, today's topic is like a controversial one, but it's so in line with our sort of values. I'm sure you've noticed, those of you who watch us regularly, that one of our core values is sort of simplicity, modesty. And so we're talking today about weddings, but not really just weddings, wedding culture, engagement culture, event culture.
Yeah.
And we want to
all the gatherings.
Yes, all the gatherings. And I hope some people will be set free today. We want to liberate some people today. Because I swear, I think some people are in bondage when it comes to these matters. And it's tough. It's tough. There's a lot of pressure from people you love, people near, people far. And we want to talk about it. I don't know everything the Bible has to say about weddings and feasts and events and things like that. But I took a quick scan through, but it's not going to be a Bible study. We're not experts. We are just having a conversation with each other, with you guys. And like I said, I hope it's food for thought and liberating.
Hopefully.
So,
what did you find in the Bible?
Okay, you want to start there? Let's start there. So, firstly, when it comes to weddings, yes, weddings are mentioned in the Bible. Yes, marriage ought to be celebrated. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal to God, to us. Marrying someone is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make in your whole life.
Absolutely.
And it merits celebration. So please take time to celebrate your marriage, okay? In the form of a wedding, in the form of a feast or whatever,
Yeah, the banquet, gathering, whatever it is, but celebrate it.
Celebrate it. Now, as far as how we currently do weddings, at least in the Western world, I can't really speak much on traditional weddings or things in African culture.
Everywhere. It's permeating. Western culture is permeating the entire world. I mean, there are still some, very remote places where Western culture, in terms of what we do for weddings, hasn't still, gotten there. But for the most part, I mean, this is the reason why a lot of Africans would have what is called the engagement, which is the traditional marriage, but will also do like a white wedding, where they do all those things.
When they say white wedding, is it synonymous with church wedding or?
So it's a mixture of church culture and I would use secular, for lack of a better word, secular Western culture, but it's Western culture happening in the church.
Interesting.
Basically. Yeah, pretty much. That's what it is. Like there's a church spin on it, but everything around it is pretty much what you would find your average person living anywhere in the Western world doing for a wedding, in terms of, even the lineup of things or events that take place is going to be the same thing.
I have no clue, okay? I did not go and do some deep study about where every single aspect of the wedding culture came from as we know it today. But there are a lot of different things. It's the dress that the woman wears and the way that the bridesmaids and the groomsmen, actually even the presence of having bridesmaids and groomsmen and what they should wear.
The lineup of people.
It's what they should wear. It's what the preacher says when he's conducting the ceremony.
The rings.
It's the rings, it's engagement ring and wedding band, right? It's, it's the banquet or the dinner or the feast that happens after the wedding. And then everything that happens there at the party, there's all kinds of different traditions that people do.
Venues,
whatever. Hey, making merry is not a sin.
No, it's not.
But it's so interesting how strong the culture became without a lot of meaning. You ask the average person who's going out of their way to make sure certain things happen at their wedding, and they can't even explain to you why they're doing it, why it's important
relevant to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very true.
And and they spend a lot of stress and a lot of money and a lot of, whatever to make these things happen. And it doesn't even really have a whole ton of significance to them. You know, hey, I'm not a Bible scholar. I may be missing something here, but I've not seen in the Bible where it prescribes that the wedding must be exactly like this that we see today in our culture. And so I'm baffled by the culture, honestly, and particularly baffled at how Christians have just fallen right into the culture without any, like, on average anyway. I do see people who make a conscious effort to do something more true to that. Yeah, more modest, more sort of very thoughtful and so forth. But on average, people just like fall into whatever is already in the culture.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. It's really interesting because, I think I've said this, I don't remember if it was on a podcast or on Instagram Live, the idea that, I'm stealing this from Gabe Zanana, by the way. I heard them say it once on their YouTube channel and I never forgot it. Only dead fish go with the flow.
That's true.
Christians are they're living, thinking people. Okay. I mean, hopefully all human beings are, but more especially you who has the Holy Spirit in you.
Yeah.
You're a living, thinking, reasoning, discerning person. And you should be able to thoughtfully, make every decision for your life,
Yeah. I mean, it shows how powerful or invasive popular culture can be. And it's to the point where people don't even question it. People are entitled to it. You know what I mean? Like we've moved from, yeah, I wish I could do it to, no, I must do it. It cannot be a wedding if this is not happening, that's not happening, this is not happening, that's not happening. We feel like we're missing something when certain things don't happen at our wedding. We don't purchase certain things. We don't have a venue. We don't do things this way, that way. And we don't even stop to question ourselves what the relevance is for the marriage. So there is no direct bearing or correlation to the meaning, the real meaning within what we are doing, which is we're getting married. Okay, great. What's the bearing between all these things and the marriage itself? What's the significance here? And we don't question that. We feel like it's like I said, it's popular culture and that's what everybody does. And so and I say that that's why popular culture is so powerful, because you can be so immersed into a culture that you don't even know whether that is truly what you want to do. So you find yourself doing it, Like I always use music as an example. You listen to any kind of music over and over again, whether you like it or not, your soul is going to be aligned to it. Before you know it, you'll be humming it, you'll be tapping your feet, but you didn't consciously decide, oh, I love this song and I'm going to learn how to sing it. Now, sometimes we do that with music that we decide, I love this music, I am going to learn it. But other times, it just enters you, it just comes into your soul. Why? Because of your environment. So maybe you went even to the mall. I always use that as an example. We all go to stores to shop. There's music playing there. You didn't really go there to, go home with the music, but you leave with it, and you be nodding your head, bobbing your head, and humming it, and you catch yourself doing it. You're like, whoa, I don't even know what the lyrics, like I don't even understand the content of the song yet, but I'm already aligning myself with it. And that's how popular culture can become, where you see one person doing wedding this way, another person doing wedding that way. You've been to weddings where this happened, that happened, and then you align yourself with it, or to it, like, okay, this is how weddings are to be. So in your decision making, you're already blinded. Like you're not really thinking, what do I really want on this day? But you're already, thinking out of all the experiences you've had, And that's why culture is strong.
Yep. And so if I could start to organize our points, I feel like the first point that we want to make is that when it comes to the culture around not just weddings, but especially weddings, the events that you do, and especially weddings, don't just go with the flow. Be thoughtful about the significance of what you're doing for yourself, for you, the couple, and then also for God, specifically when it comes to weddings. Because I heard John Bevere say this. I was listening to his podcast last night, one of his many podcasts, and he said that the Bible starts and ends with marriage. Marriage is very near and dear to God's heart. So your wedding is a celebration of marriage, which is something very near and dear to God and glorious to God.
Yeah.
Right? And so what kind of celebration in light of that ought you to have? You know, and when you think back to some weddings that you've been to or that maybe the one you had, did it bring glory to God? Did it express the heart of God for marriage? You know? And so think about what you do when you're planning, and not just that, but really any event that you're taking your time and energy and money and effort and all that to prep. So culture, that's the first piece. Think through.
I think when we fall out of, I like what you said, and I think he's so right. Wedding is very dear to God's heart. When we fall out of the place of honoring God with our life and everything that happens within it, we lose meaning. It's just as simple as that. And weddings are, a good example of that. So here are two people getting married. They are doing something that is instituted by God, and yet we're not thinking of it as something to honor God. You know, now when you think about it in that way, you begin to have a different perspective. Like if I'm doing this to honor God, if we're doing this to honor God, what are the things we want happening? We want to see happening during our ceremony. Besides the fact that, we're celebrating, what do we want to draw attention to? You see, because sometimes we finish all those events and there's no bearing to God. Like people don't experience God in any way. It doesn't point to God in any way. It doesn't honor God in any way. And some of the practical questions that we would ask once we start thinking about that will lead us to a godly place. For example, you cannot tell me you're doing this to honor God, and in the end, you are in debt and you are already struggling in your marriage. Like from the onset, like how godly is that? How godly is going to you can't afford? How godly is being untruthful and insincere to yourself and to everyone who's seated there? Well, you can't really afford this, but you're putting up a show. How godly is not being true and sincere with God? Like I am going to do what I will be able to afford to honor God. He doesn't, delight in the sacrifices of fools. He wants me to be sincere and give him what I am able to give him. So when you think of it as, all right, let's assume this is my act of worship toward God for this beautiful thing called marriage that I'm going into. But I'm going to pretend that I'll be able to put up this show for God, even though I can't really. But what I will really be able to do is just gather with a few people, have some food, pray, thank God for our union, and that will be enough. No, we don't do that. We want to sometimes overdo it, but God is not delighted in that. We are being insincere. We are putting up a facade. We are not really displaying what really is. We are displaying the desires that we have, and most of those desires are not even from a godly place. Mostly, I'm not saying everyone who does it. Maybe you can afford it and do all that, and that's fine. But even still, we have to question the culture.
Speaking of affording it, that brings me to my second point about wedding culture and event culture. Sorry.
It's okay.
Which is that by and large, I see people spending well beyond what they can afford and prioritizing a 1 day event or sometimes multiple day event. But my point is the event over the marriage itself or over whatever you're celebrating itself. So rather than make sure that everything is in order to begin my marriage, well, I make sure that everything is in order for that wedding day to go well. I'll sort out the rest later.
Yeah.
And I think by and large, people are spending way too much on their weddings. And I often, I don't want to lie, so I don't want to say every because I don't remember every single conversation. But I'll say almost every, I'm being truthful, almost every person, if not every person that I've asked about their wedding feels as though they probably should have spent less money on their wedding. Yeah, they have regret about the amount of money and the amount of stress and strain they put on themselves for their wedding, And that just tells you something, Why are we spending all this money to do, once again, going back to point one, to do things that don't even have like high value or meaning for us? A lot of times we're pleasing people. A lot of times we want to please our spouse. A lot of times we want to, I don't know, just show people, that we can do, that we want to fit into the culture, I guess.
Yeah.
And and we just put ourselves in bondage.
Yeah.
Things around wedding culture, especially in America, I can't speak for other places. The prices are like hiked up. You can rent the same room to do a wedding and to do somebody's 60th birthday. And because you're having a wedding, they'll charge you double or triple the price.
Special price tag.
Everything that says wedding, the price tag is up here, And that's unfortunate. Anyway, that's like price gouging, to be honest. But anyway, you don't have to participate in the culture in that way.
No, you don't. You really don't have to. We really have to be wise about this. And I think we need to talk about this more, especially for young people. Okay. Financial management is a Christian discipline. It's not something that, it's not that you worship God and your money is just your money. No. Like financial discipline is very important. We are stewards of the good things that God gives to us. And we ought to show by our conduct in how we use them, even when we can afford it. The value we place on things has to exhibit or show our reverence toward God. And weddings and party culture are, some of those places where we can show value for our worship toward God, basically. And what usually happens is, like you said, a lot of people cannot afford it, but keeping up with the Joneses, because this is the culture of wedding. And so we borrow it without questioning. And like I said, even when you can afford it, you should still vet every decision you make. What is the value? What is the utility in this? What really is the utility in this? And I know we're going to touch on that, but most of the time, we're not even doing good necessarily to people who cannot pay us back, as we're going to read in the Bible. We'll talk about it, but it's just us. It comes from a very or kind of. I'm not speaking directly to anybody. I'm just speaking generally out of my experience. It comes generally from a very selfish place. It's like, this is, I want this, I want that, and that's where you spot the worldliness in the way that we do weddings. We do not have to spend half of our life saving on one day. There is no wisdom in that. There is no godly wisdom in that. If you find wisdom in it, I will challenge you. There is no godly wisdom in spending half of your savings, even if you can afford it, on one day. I don't think it's godly. And we have to vet. We have to judge our hearts through all these things and put our monies where they would glorify God the most. I don't think putting my money in a single day where people come and celebrate with me and then do several activities within the day and then I'm down by 50% is a wise or godly thing. And it affects young people. When you look at the population of people who get married, they're mostly young people just about to start life. How is that important? How is that godly? How is that wise that two young people who are beginning to start life, and oftentimes, especially in the Western world, mostly in America, they already have student loans, they already have this, there's this waiting, there's that waiting, they don't have a house of their own, they don't have this, they are yet to accomplish anything in life. Now, of
Mm.
course, it's not everybody's case, but I'm saying generally speaking, most people who get married are young people starting life together. Where is the wisdom in even supporting them to spend all that money in a single day? And I've heard people say, yeah, most people would not even mind supporting you, have a glamorous wedding, but start a business and call for help. Most people would not come to your aid. You know what I mean? So we have to rethink this whole thing. And we don't think the economic um, the industrial side of wedding. We don't often think about that there's a huge industry that is taking care of all these little things, the dress, the this, the that, and we are buying into it. We are feeding that industry, and that industry is growing and growing and growing and growing and becoming monstrous in us, and to the point where a lot of people are not married. I know personally a lot of people are not married, young people, because they cannot afford a wedding.
Mm.
They would much rather sin against God. They've been in a relationship for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Some of them even have kids. They're not married. Why? Because I can't afford a wedding. What's the sense in this? What's the wisdom in this? Why should we take this worldly thing, this course, of course, celebration is great, but why should we put so much emphasis on that it becomes a reason why people don't honor God? It's the marriage itself diminishes, and the wedding is going up and up and up, and the intrinsic value of what we're talking about, which is marriage, which is two people joining together, becoming one, is losing its value. But the celebration of the thing, which is the most important thing, keeps gaining more and more value, even in terms of money. It costs more, and young people can't get married. Why? Because I can't put on a wedding like all my other friends are doing. We ought to be, as Christians, um, diminishing the way that wedding culture keeps it's been going up and up, and encourage young people to get married. We have to normalize um, simple celebrations where two people get together and they become one and they start life. We have to normalize that so that more people will get married. Wedding will not be an excuse for people to sin, to have sex and live for many years and waste each other's time without getting married.
Yeah, it's good that you brought that up because I would have probably forgotten to mention it. And I do want to say unequivocally because I don't know, I just feel like people need to hear this. Firstly, a very nice ring, or really any ring at all, honestly, in my opinion. I don't even have an engagement ring. I only have a wedding band because I saw utility in that. I'd like for people to know that I'm married, and
Yeah.
it's just a visible and clear sign that I'm married, but I didn't see any need for an engagement ring. So I want to say, yes, this is maybe my opinion, but I think it's a little bit more than opinion.
Yeah.
An engagement ring is not a necessity to move from courtship to marriage. Okay. And I'm not saying sacrifice is not like in order in different ways, like a gesture. Making sacrifices to show the family that I love your daughter, I want to support your daughter, to I can care for your daughter, or something like that.
Yeah.
Even with the wedding, I'm not necessarily saying you have to have a cheap wedding, by the
No,
way.
that's not the goal.
No. As a matter of fact, it looks to me like when I look at the instances of wedding in the Bible, that it's something like wealthy people
Yeah.
did very
glamorous.
Yeah, like very nicely. It seemed like not wedding, but just sort of like events, feasts, and like including weddings, but a lot of like the more, sort of, yeah, like the big feasts and stuff that we see there.
Banquet.
It's like a king who's hosting it or whatever. And so yes, they make something lavish, but I'm sure that like the everyday, working class person in the society wasn't necessarily having some big feast where they can invite all the people in the, in the neighborhood. Or if they were having it that way, it's probably because everybody, the community chipped in to, help too. And so we just had something to celebrate all together, and it wasn't like what we see now in some big hall or whatever. They probably just did something, that was easy to make it work for a lot of people in the community. But anyway, so so engagement ring, not necessary. Big wedding, not necessary. If it's going to delay you from honoring God, and if it's going to make you to dishonor God, then it becomes like a sin instead of a blessing in your life.
Absolutely.
And so I see this where people are engaged for 2 years when they knew they were ready to be married. Like, okay, let me give you an example. You're together for 6 months, and at 6 months, you know for sure you want to get married. And instead of getting married in like 2 months later, you take 2 years, longer than even the time that you were together, to know that you want to marry each other.
Yeah.
To prepare for a wedding so that you can now be married. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. And all the while that you want to be married and you're not married, the temptation is heightened to dishonor God by fornicating, by moving in together, doing things that are not for single people to do. You're not single.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not married till you're married, right? You're single till you're married. So, and I see this all the time. And I want to sound judgmental. I just want you to think about it. Like, take time to think about it. I'm saying this to help somebody. Okay. Don't put yourself in that situation. And a lot of times people waste their precious, precious years too. Yep. They waste their precious years with people who they're not compatible with them, or whatever, just because, I've already put a deposit on. We've been working on this. Like, we've been planning this wedding. I already put a deposit on a venue. I already invested in a dress. We were supposed to have a destination wedding. Everybody already bought their tickets to go, or whatever. I know that this is not the right situation for me, but I'm going to keep going because of a wedding, And so I just want to say point blank, it's not right. In my eyes, it is not right.
It's not right.
So when you want to be married, I don't know, maybe I should make there's like so much I could say. I almost want to make a different episode about some of our personal experiences. But anyway.
I mean, we can. This is what I want to say. If you're a young person, listen to this carefully. Do not become a slave of any culture that does not honor God and help you to flourish. There is no utility in serving any invisible act or any culture that does not help you flourish and honor God. Now, I'm speaking to young Christians here. Question every cultural act. Question everything within any culture, even including church culture, that does not help you flourish in your walk with God and develop as a person. And marriage is one of the biggest places where people become victims of what is called culture. Culture is not something that is static, it's just sitting there, and you have to come and honor it and worship it like a god. Cultures are not gods. You are the eye of whatever culture you are involved in. I always say this. I am Ghanaian. I don't meet a lot of Ghanaians where I work. When people meet me, they have met Ghana. When people meet me, they've experienced a Ghanaian. That is their experience of the Ghanaian culture. I don't live like every other Ghanaian. I live differently, but I'm still Ghanaian. Wherever you are, in whatever people group you are in, don't buy this whole notion of, well, I'm black people do things this way, and so I must do this. Even when it doesn't help you flourish as a person. Well, because I am African and this is how we do things, and because I'm Ghanaian, Ghanaians do things this way. This is the way Ghanaians do their weddings. Even when you don't have the money and you cannot afford it to do what this so-called way of doing things as Ghanaians is. No, chart your own path, create your own path. It is part of what culture is. Culture evolves. Whatever you do within a culture that has no meaning or significance and does not promote the well-being and the flourishing of the human beings involved in that culture is barbaric. You do not have to perpetuate that. So you can end certain things, so-called things that are labeled, this is the way we do things. When we are getting married, we spend this money, we have to do this, we have to do that, but I cannot afford it. Am I not Ghanaian enough? You are Ghanaian enough. You are Christian enough to say, this is the way I'm going to do it. Okay. This is going to help me honor God without sinning. This is going to help me please God. I do not want to live with my girlfriend for 6 years just because I cannot afford a wedding. So we're going to do our wedding this way. We're going to invite X number of people. That's the number we can afford. It's going to be our family. This is the way our wedding is going to be. That becomes your culture. Whoever experiences that has experienced you as a Christian. That is also Christian culture. That is also Ghanaian culture. Question everything, question every philosophy, shift your paradigms. If it's not serving you, it's not making you flourish, and it's enslaving you and holding you captive, throw it away. You do not owe anybody the label of I checked all the boxes of what it means to be a Ghanaian. Now I feel like I'm Ghanaian. You are Ghanaian already. Add meaning to your activities. Add meaning to the things you do and question things. Don't just roll into things. This is killing a lot of young people. So many young people. It's not even in the area of weddings and parties or gatherings. It's in the area of business and other things. The culture, the notion is that I go to the university and I apply to a job until I get employed by someone. I just keep going. And a part of their mind is just blocked when you can actually just look at your circumstance and come up with something that would help you grow as an individual. And maybe that would be, okay, I'll start this small. No one is employing me, so I'll do something to be productive. But no. So question every culture, question every activity. If you cannot attach meaning that is important to you and helps you, those two go hand in hand, and helps you to honor God and enriches your relationship with God, do not do it. Don't feel the pressure that the society will put on you. Stand out. Be joyful in the fact that you are consecrated. You are separated from what is so-called mainstream or anything like that.
Another thing I want to bring up is the fact that who gets married is adults, right? Children don't get married, and children ought not to get married, right?
Yeah.
So who gets married are mature people, is my point. Adults. So as an adult, you run your life, after God, right? Who keeps our lives.
Yeah.
Meaning every decision you make, you live with. So this is related to finance. It's also related to, culture and all those different things. I understand in different cultures, parents may pay for a portion of the wedding. They might not pay for any of the wedding. They might pay for all of the wedding. So there is a consideration. There's a tact and all that needs to be made, okay, or considered or executed. But you can't use your parents as an excuse for why my wedding wasn't what I didn't want a wedding this big. I didn't want to invite this many people.
No, not allowed.
I see this. So generally speaking, like a lot of people, when we talk about the weddings are not like as significant I think celebration is really, really important, but weddings as we know them today are not as significant as, people would like to make them seem. A lot of people will say,
Yeah.
well, no, but weddings are in the Bible, da, 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 da. But a lot of what they're talking about, like Jesus turning water into wine at the wedding, yes, weddings existed and they're fine to do. Nothing wrong with doing them, but we're seeing a lot of descriptive things about weddings in the Bible for the most part. There's not that much prescriptive, okay? But one
No.
of the things that I noticed descriptive in the parable of the wedding feast, I think it is that people were invited to the wedding, and who wasn't invited to the wedding couldn't come to the wedding.
No.
Okay, I'm using that as an example to say that it's okay, and it's a normal part of culture. Like, it's not a bad part of culture to have like a wedding, a guest list. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're not on the guest list, then
Just don't show up.
you shouldn't show up, because there's another thing that says there's another part that says that you show up and you sit, as though you're a guest. Or I'm kind of paraphrasing and putting it in my own way, but like you sit as though you're supposed to be in this particular honorable place, and you don't want to be the person who's told you, oh no, you're not even supposed to be there. You need to go, back there. I'm grossly paraphrasing,
but sitting in a high place.
Yeah, especially if you're not invited, you need to, or if you're, if you know your place is not there, you go back humbly and let somebody put you where you're supposed to be or whatever. But anyway, that's like a little tangent. But my point is simply that your parents can tell you, I want to invite my 100 friends. Okay, you're an adult, and I don't even blame your parents for trying. You are the one, as an adult, as a mature person, who is responsible. It's like a rite of passage, dealing with all these things with your parents. I can make a whole different episode about dealing with your parents on stuff, okay?
Which we probably should.
We probably should. But you're responsible to, like I said, respectfully, tactfully have a conversation with your parents about what actually can we afford, who actually needs to be at the wedding, and so forth, and come to a place of understanding. But ultimately, you have to live with your decisions, particularly if you're the one financially investing in your own wedding.
Oh, yeah.
How can it be that you're paying for the wedding, but your parents are dictating to you exactly how the wedding should be and telling you who's coming and whatever, and this needs to be like this and this needs to be like that?
Yeah.
So as an adult, you have to take your, your place or whatever,
Yeah. And I think you owe it to your spouse. That's your first, well, maybe not the only, but that's one of your first acts of maturity that you need to do. You ought to be able to, if you encounter that problem, you need to be able to talk to your parents. Most of the time, people don't regard or respect boundaries because either they don't know it or they don't understand.
You've not set them.
Why you would have a boundary like that. So first of all, you make it known. It's your act of maturity. If you like, it's your first test to being a mature person who is now going to get married. You have to be able to sit and talk with your family. We have an episode about dealing with in-laws and boundaries. Boundaries are one of the things we discussed. You have to be able to sit with your parents and say, Mommy, Daddy, this will not serve me financially. The number of people you want to invite, I get it. This is very honorable for you. It's great. You're feeling great. You're happy. You want your friends to come and celebrate your son or your daughter. But I need you to understand that this would set me up or set me off in a very bad way. I do not have the money to spend. Even if they decide, oh, okay, we're going to pay for it. How about that? If your value is, I do not want too many people at my wedding. I just want these
paying
people.
For it means that you're going to tell me everyone who's supposed to come and every way the wedding's supposed to be.
Right.
It comes with strings attached.
Right. You can even state, of course, respectfully, that, Mommy, I don't like the way this is starting out because I don't want this to become a precedent. Like, you telling me exactly what to do and me just, accepting it will set a bad precedent. I'm going to get married. I do not want this to perpetuate. So I want this to end right here. Invite this number of people. Invite the most important people that you want to see. This is the way I want it. It's not that I don't understand you. I understand you. If it fit with my values, I would let you. But this doesn't sit well with me. The fact that you are even making these demands, I don't want us to start off my marital life this way. And this is
Right.
the first thing I'm doing together with my spouse. I don't think I want this to continue. So, how about you just take the number of people I've given you to invite? I would love for you to respect that. I would be happy. I would be joyful. Let's learn to work together. And we're going to make many more of such decisions where you and I are going to have to talk about something that maybe you would like to have happen in a different way. And I think we can use this one to get started. Can we agree so that you respect this boundary? I can also respect you. You have this number. Or even if, let's say, you reach a compromise. Okay, I want you to invite 5 people. Okay, I'll make it 7 people for you. That's all I can do. I'm meeting you somewhere, and take it. I do not want any more people. You have to be able to have these conversations respectfully, and you have to take on the challenge when it arises. Don't hide from it. Do not hide. Don't act like you don't see it. You have to be able to have discernment to know that it could set a precedent, and you
Not
don't
even
want it
it
to be
could.
like that. Please do not act like it's not a thing. It is a thing, and don't hide it from your spouse either. That's all I want to say about that.
I was thinking it, not even that it could, it absolutely will. And there are so many people who reach out to us, and we
Yeah,
see, in life, so many marriages where that issue follows them into their marriage.
yeah,
So, like I said, this is a rite of passage of adulthood. This is a sign of your maturity that you're able to navigate these matters with your parents and set boundaries and so forth. If you can't set a boundary about the wedding preparations or celebration preparations, you're going to struggle to set boundaries in your marriage too. It will follow you into your marriage as an issue. Your parents are going to start telling you, I think you should do this and I think you should do that.
yeah.
Not because they're bad people, because they love you and because up till now they were giving you lots of instructions because they had to
Hmm.
raise you, okay? So it's hard to sometimes get out of that mode of, children obey your parents to the mode of children honor your parents, meaning there's a shift that happens when you become an adult where
Yeah.
that you're not necessarily obeying your parents anymore, but you still need to honor them.
Hmm.
And so they're going to try to dictate things to you, and you have to set a boundary and say, hey, I love you, and whatever the situation is, this is my bad. This is what I feel comfortable with. Can we discuss and come to understanding about blah blah blah?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that one. Please consider when you're planning any event or anything. You're pregnant. Somebody tells you. I mean, your parents start telling you, "Oh, the baby shower is going to be like this. Da 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 da. I want to do this. Da 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 da." Slow down, have a conversation with your with your parents and get on the same page. Make sure you guys are on the same page about what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe they just want to do something good for you. They didn't even realize that they were overstepping. Once you talk to them, they might still like to help you. They just want to love you.
Yeah.
But they didn't, realize that, okay, you know what, you're right. They'll come around a lot, very often, a reasonable parent, let's say. I know not every parent is
Yeah.
reasonable as
Most of
well,
them would.
but most of them will come around.
Yeah. And can I just say, you also owe it to your parents. Your parents are also learning, especially when you happen to be the first person, you know, out of your siblings to get married. They're also learning. You owe it to them to be truthful and sincere. When it doesn't sit well with you, don't act like it's okay, because you're not helping them model into the good parents that they want to be. They are coming out of a good place. They love you, they want to show you love, but they also have preferences. And, they can separate the two. They would prefer things to happen a certain way, and plus they want to support you. So you owe them your sincerity. You owe them your truthfulness. When you sit and have these conversations, be honest with them. They want to see that honesty in you. If it's not okay, don't say it's okay and resent them. It will be crazy. They wouldn't understand you. Like, I said I was going to do this. Why are you acting like? Don't do that. Be very candid with them. Be very truthful with them. You can extract the good behind what they want to do. You can acknowledge that. You can even name it. Mommy, I see you love me so much, and you would do anything for me. You want this to be the best day ever for me. But can I tell you what the best day, what I envision for the best day? Now, I know that you want to make this a great day for me. Your daughter is getting married. You want your friends to come around and witness that, and the good daughter or son that you've raised. And I love that you are invested in this. But this is what a good day would look like for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want you to not do it. I want you to work with me. If you did it this way, it will make me even more happy.
Mm-hmm.
And explain to them. So validate, acknowledge their heart. They are being caring, they are being loving, they want to show their love in those acts or deeds. You can acknowledge that and say, I appreciate that, mommy, but this is how I would love to see it play out, so that you can work with them. It's not that you dismiss them and say, I don't even want your help. No, you can say that I value that you are interested in helping me and chipping in, but you know what? Um, Once we get married, we plan to do X, Y, and Z. That's if you still want their help, let's say. We plan to do X, Y, and Z. I would love if you put that money toward that for us. That would mean a world to me, because as it stands now, we don't even know how we're going to pay for that. So that it's like you're reasoning with them. It's not that you're dismissing them and just go away with your money. I don't want you dictating to me. You catch that, you validate that value, and you acknowledge it. You thank them for it. They will feel honored that you see all their effort. That's most of the time that's what parents want. But you have to be the person right in the boat, so that you did not blame anyone in the end. Like my mom, that's the worst thing you want to hear from your spouse, especially if you're a husband. Don't do that. The worst thing a woman could ever experience is, uh, my mom, that's what my mom wanted. What do you mean that's what your mom wanted? What about you? You are leading this family. Do not watch it get to that level. So catch it, have a conversation with your parents. And I say especially men, because it matters a lot. It breaks things all the time when men are not able to set boundaries. It takes away a level of security from the family. And the woman feels like, can I even trust you to, make me secure in this home as far as your family is concerned? So please don't do that.
Mm. Every time you start talking or I start talking, I can hear this episode, that episode, But
And you guys
okay.
can let us know if you feel like we need to drill down a little bit more in a certain area. Like, I want you guys to talk about this one. This one touches on something for me. You can
Yeah,
put it in
leave
the
it in the
comment and
comments and we can
just let us
expand
know.
or
Yeah,
expound on it in a different episode.
right.
Yeah. The last thing I only want to mention for now is intent. Whenever you're
Hmm.
planning an event or whatever, you're putting your time, your energy, your effort, you know, your money, think about the intent behind what you do. And again, this is also inspired by the Bible in the sense that
Yeah.
where was this? Hold on, I lost my train of thought. Where was I thinking of?
Is it the feast of inviting people from the street? Is that where you're going with this?
Transactional. Okay, let me read it so that I will tell it to you properly. So,
This is Jesus, right?
yes, the words of Jesus Christ our Lord. Luke chapter 14, verse
14.
12 and down, 12 to 14. When you give a dinner or a supper, do not ask your friends, your brothers, your relatives, or rich neighbors, lest they also invite you back and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, for you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just. Now, I'm not saying that to take this exactly literally and never invite your family and friends, to your events. Okay. But what I'm saying, this is a beautiful thing to do. And that's
It
kind of
is.
like my heart, whether it's family, friends, or other who would show up to something I do, which is why I don't do very much when it comes to events. My heart is that whenever I could plan an event, and that's why sometimes I feel like this stuff is for the rich. Even in the Bible, you see it's the kings. Why would I invite it says your rich neighbors? What am I going to invite my rich neighbors to? They're used to a caliber of feast or dinner like this that I cannot provide. So I'm not even thinking about rich anybody, but that gives me an impression that this is stuff that wealthy people do. Okay.
It is.
I'm not
It
wealthy. That's
is.
why I don't do a lot of events. But whenever I would do an event sometime in the future, which I would love to do, Thomas and I always talk about this.
Yeah.
Maybe we would celebrate our, 20-year marriage
Some anniversary,
anniversary, or
sometimes, yeah, at some point, yeah.
something like that. And or have some kind of celebration. And we would just love to be able to just let people feel like I'm here to enjoy. I'm here for the glory of God. I'm here to support you guys and just to be a part of this, feast and this happiness and this merrymaking. And I don't feel obliged to repay you in any way. I want to make my guests feel like this is just for you to enjoy. You don't have to. It's okay if you don't bring a gift. It's okay if you don't have money. It's okay. Just come. Just come. Just like, again, in the parable of the wedding feast, they did have to dress the best that they had, appropriate for a wedding, but they didn't have to do anything. They were taken from the street or from wherever, to come to the wedding. And so why am I saying this? A lot of people watch your heart. Yeah. In terms of your intent, be honest about your intent. When you're planning an event, are you planning that baby shower, that gender reveal, that engagement party to raise money for, for the wedding, for the baby,
Yeah.
Because then it becomes something transactional. We see this where, I spent $10,000 on this event and I only made back 8,000. Like it's like a business to you, you're like,
it is,
and it's like, and you feel discouraged about something that you should have really just been doing out of the kindness of your heart.
And enjoyed too.
And
enjoyed too.
Yeah, and something that was meant to be enjoyed is now something that has become like a stress to you. Like, man, you have all this regret, you have all this disappointment, and it's like, don't approach your events like that.
Yeah.
I think it is wiser to approach your events as I really want you to be a part of celebrating this new life with me. It's a miracle. I'm so glad this baby is on the way. Can you come celebrate with me? And if you bring gifts, great. I'm not saying don't receive the gifts. It's wonderful. I thank you. The Lord bless you. But it's not required. I didn't bring you to the wedding shower or the baby shower or whatever so that you could bring me money. No, I just want you here because I love you, because I want you to experience this with me.
Yeah.
And so if your intent is not right, then everything that you do starts to feel waste. That's where regret can come in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So make sure your heart is in the right place.
Yeah.
Check your heart.
I love this, by the way. Wherever there is expectation, there could be disappointment. Okay. And we see this all the time. People set themselves up and they get disappointed. It's not that they couldn't predict this from when they were doing this. And again, because of their intent. My understanding of any kind of celebration, party, or whatever is that the price or the value of people showing up is their honor toward the thing that you're doing. You invite people and they say, I'll make it. The way I think about it, time is very important to me. My wife knows this. When people say, I'll show up, that's it. That's the value right there. I'm taking you away from whatever you could be doing. It's not, but we make it feel like we feel entitled sometimes. We don't even consider people's time, people's presence, the honor that they bring or they present. So when I'm inviting people, when they show up, that's it. You are honorable. Your presence here means it's priceless to me. The fact that you left whatever you could be doing to be here to celebrate this with me, that's the price. It's not the money you put in an envelope and gave to me. I don't care about that. Now, like my wife said, I would thank you even more if you did that, but you don't have to. You being here, you spending the time with me. I have carved out these hours to celebrate because of X, Y, and Z, whether it's because I had a baby, because I'm getting married, whatever the reason is, I'm happy that you are here with me. We have taken that true value of celebrations and parties and we just spin it around, we spin it around and we want to use it. Look, there's a difference between a fundraiser and a party. Nonprofits raise funds. They make it clear it's a fundraising dinner. Now, there's an element of party in there, but it's very clear. When I say yes, I am attending, I will be there. When I RSVP, it goes without saying that I am supporting whatever the cause is that they are raising funds for. So I go prepared. I go and I know it's a fundraising dinner. I'll put something in an envelope. I'll pledge something. I'm prepared. Mentally, I'm ready. If I don't have anything to give, I'll decline. When we make parties, when we put up these events and celebrations, and it's very subliminal, like nobody says anything. Nobody is actually making it clear. Hey guys, by the way, we're using this party to raise funds. People do it, but they make it very clear. We're using this party to raise funds. We'll donate it to St. Jude. So if you can, whatever you're able to give to us, it's our son's birthday, but we want to use it as an opportunity to raise some funds and donate it to this organization. They make it very clear. They don't even make it forced. If you have, you can give. If you don't have, you can. It's okay. You don't have to give. That's my point. But when we have these parties and in the in the back of our minds, we're thinking, well, I spent this, I spent that, and the value is not in the celebration, the joy of whatever I'm celebrating. I'm married. I'm so joyful. I prepared for this day. I'm happy that I found a wife. That is all. I'm joyful. I just need you to join me in celebrating that, because what's the use of just sitting and dancing and celebrating alone when I have friends that I can invite to celebrate with me? That's the whole reason. I'm not luring you to spend time to eat and guilt trip you into giving me anything. And when we do parties like that, we lose the meaning. And that is why we have to do what is within our means. You do what you can afford, and you invite people to celebrate with you at your level. When you go beyond your level, you can't really afford the venue, but you rented it anyway. You can't really afford the food and everything that was served there, but you went for it anyway. And now you're thinking, how am I going to pay this? Well, I'm hoping that the people who show up will chip in. No, they may or may not. You're not entitled to that unless you make it clear to them that, hey guys, I spent a lot of money, but I can't really afford it. Can you help me pay for this? If you can be that sincere, which I don't think anybody would do anyway. So it goes back to the point. Live within your means. Do what you can afford so that when you invite people, your mind is at rest. You value their presence. It's honorable. You shake hands and you say, thank you for coming to celebrate with me. And you are content with that. And also, when people give you, you would show even more appreciation, because sometimes people still give and we open up the envelope and we're like, really? $10?
Yeah, people complain after the
after
fact.
all the food, I might as well give it back to you. After the food and this and the drinks and that, this is all you can give me? $10? How much do you think it costs to put up? What is that? It's very crass. Like, don't do that. Do not do that. Do what is within your means. Let people show up and enjoy. Don't feel any feelings. Don't guilt trip people, so that when they do give you, you also really appreciate them. When you say thank you, it's meaningful. Like, I thank you. You did not have to do this, but I thank you that you're showing me love on top of your presence and on top of investing your time into this celebration of mine. Why can't we have parties that way? So that the people who attend do not have to feel the pressure of, oh gosh, it's another party. Now I don't even know what to give. I went to one last week, and they're more likely to decline. And if they don't decline, then it's like they're not really enjoying it. Why do we do that to ourselves?
And so now that we've probably explained and over explained and whatever, to summarize, I believe we covered about weddings and events and so forth. One is don't just go with the flow of culture. A lot of the culture is not our culture as Christians. It's just the culture. It's just society's culture, secular culture. Sometimes it's mixed in with Christian culture. Even Christian culture, some aspects of like typical or normative Christian culture is not really like biblical culture or like what is truly best to do or something like that. Mm-hmm. So just taking the time to slow down, think, pray, reason. Okay, that's number one. Number two, You think I remember number 2? Finances. Finances. Don't spend more than what you have.
Yeah.
Like I hear all my African friends say, cut your clothes
according to your size.
According to your size. Yeah. There's another one, like your cloth. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, there's another way people say it, but so
sometimes you say cut your coat according to your size.
Oh no, I heard someone say cut your cloth or something like that. I forget.
Some say cloth, some say coat.
I forget. But anyway, you get my point. Live within your means, okay? I'm not saying you don't have to exert yourself. Like if you want to exert yourself a little extra, work a little extra to save for it and stuff. I'm not saying you can't do that, but don't spend your last, on a wedding or on an event that would make you feel sorrowful for the thing that's supposed to bring you joy. The third one was about maturity. Maturity to be able to navigate the difficult decisions that are associated sometimes with inviting people or planning things, agreeing with your spouse to do certain things. You need to be able to maturely, respectfully, tactfully navigate the challenges that can come with planning an event or whatever. Because there's always going to be somebody that's not happy. There's always going to be somebody who thinks this should have been that way or whatever. But we're not here to please people.
No,
okay.
We're not.
And then lastly what was the last one? Intent. Have the right intent for every event that you do. Because if not, it's like you did it in vain. Mm-hmm. But if you do it with good intent or with the right intent, then I think the Lord gets a lot more glory out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I would add, wedding or parties can be very cultural, and culture is not static. Culture is dynamic. So the way that marriages or weddings are done today hasn't always been. 50, 100, 1,000 years ago, that's not how people got married. So when you look at your culture, don't look at it as a very static thing that you need to honor. You can also write a different story that helps you flourish. If culture doesn't help the people who live within that culture or who uphold that culture to flourish, it's not a good culture. So you look at the culture that you find yourself in, and if it's not serving you to flourish as an individual, you can tweak it. Culture is dynamic. It's not static. What is today hasn't always been. And what will be tomorrow will not always be. So you can tweak it. Take the liberty in making changes and saying, I'll do it this way because it will help me save money. That could become a whole new culture on its own, maybe for your family, for your lineage. So you have that power as a human being to rewrite things. God has given you that liberty. Do not box yourself in any kind of paradigm. Open up and challenge what now is to create what will serve you today and preserve you and your lineage or your family. And they might also come and tweak it a little bit. That is the beauty of life. If we cannot do that, we're becoming very bad artists of life. And we just keep drawing the same painting, drawing the same painting, drawing the same painting. It's boring. Nobody wants to look at the same painting over and over and over again. If any artist spent their entire career drawing the same thing, nobody would want to go to their gallery. Who wants to go and see the same painting? Add flavor to it. Look at it. Tweak it. Change it. Make it better. You come up with a new drawing. People would love it. And your kids might come up with something else. So think long term is what I'm saying. Do not just think about pleasing that which was instituted yesterday and that alone. Look at what was instituted yesterday. You can honor it, take something from it, make it better, let it serve you so that you can flourish for posterity.
All right. Well, with that, we have to go. Yes. We both have places to be and things to do.
Yeah.
I do remember that quote, though. I think it was cut your cloth according to your size.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said
but
cut
I said
your
sometimes
clothes
people
according
use
to your
coat. Sometimes people use cloth, but cut your coat according to your size, or cut your cloth according to your size.
Cut your cloth according to your coat. I don't know. Anyway, thank you guys. We love you. Just food for thought, please. Because another thing that happens on our Instagram, people will be saying, "Oh, don't give advice." Da, da, da. It's just advice. Take it or leave it. Okay.
You don't have to take it.
Yeah, it's not. Okay. This is not an order. Okay, live your life. That was actually one of the points.
That's exactly what we're saying. You can take what we are saying.
You do and, what you believe is right.
Let it serve you. And if any part of it doesn't serve you, you don't have to abide by it. We're not lords holding a whip over your head to do X or do Y. So take whatever is helpful and edifying to you at the moment. You may be in a completely different season where this doesn't serve you. That's okay.
Right.
Move on. God be with you. We'll see you in the next one. We love you. Bye.
Bye.